The Denver Broncos have made it a tradition over the last decade or so to pair a veteran, role model pass rusher with a talented young phenom that can then be molded over time into an elite player. First, it was Elvis Dumervil showing a rookie Von Miller the ropes, and then it was the great DeMarcus Ware showing Von how to master his craft, and now 8 years into Miller's career, it's his turn to groom a young protege of his own in Bradley Chubb. And if early returns are anything to go by, Chubb could be one of the best players that John Elway has ever drafted. When looking at Chubb on tape, I get a lot of the same feelings that I got when Joey Bosa was a rookie back in 2016 and when Khalil Mack was a rookie in 2014. He's polished in his technique, he has a motor that never quits, and he's willing to do the dirty work against the run to set up third and long opportunities. Physically, he's not exactly built the same way as Bosa or Mack. In fact, he's somewhere in between. But like both of them, I think he does a phenomenal job of using the tools he does have to his advantage as much as possible. The first thing that jumps out to me, and this was a big reason why I had Chubb with an equal grade to Mack as a prospect in last year's draft, is that Chubb really knows how to maximize his length and power, and you always see him abusing tackles with the exact same combo that's been Mack's bread and butter for years now, the speed to power move. I'll show you an example of how it works from this sack back in week 3 against the Ravens. Chubb is lined up in a 2-point stance here, essentially as a 9 technique because he's so damn wide outside this tight end, and because he is so wide, the left tackle Ronnie Stanley has no option but to retreat back in what's called a kick set in his pass protection, or what some also call a kick slide. He's got to really fire out of that stance and retreat back as far as possible to close off Chubb's angle around the edge, because that width and alignment gives Chubb a natural advantage in his angle to the edge, and Chubb knows that. He knows that if he reads that it's a pass play off the snap, Stanley is going to be in that kick set no matter what to try to choke off that angle, so he can plan his rush for that technique. As he's reading Stanley off the snap, he's not necessarily firing upfield because it is only 2nd and 7, and he still does have to read his run pass keys, but once he does recognize that Stanley is retreating back in that kick set, that begins the rush phase of the play. And this is the part that reminds me of Khalil Mack the most, because despite the fact that the threat of the run slowed down Chubb off the snap, and despite the fact that Stanley got a head start in his kick set, Chubb was still able to use his length, technique, and power to get the sack anyway. Watch how as he's starting to accelerate to the corner, Chubb rolls those hips inside directly at Stanley, not behind or around Stanley. He's not pointing them towards the back of the pocket and trying to get to the edge anymore because he knows that that's not an option after he started slow off the snap. He's never realistically going to get the edge here, especially with Stanley firing out in a good kick set and engaging with those wide hands in the hug technique. Chubb's only chance to generate a sack on this snap is his power, not his speed, so he converts his speed into power. That's why it's called a speed to power move. Look at him exploit Stanley's wide hands by getting a good double punch inside his chest from a lower leverage position, and that punch immediately stands Stanley straight up and puts his weight back on his heels. We talked a little bit about that last week with Quentin Nelson, and you'll remember that the last place an offensive lineman wants to be is on his heels because it completely compromises their balance and ability to anchor against a power rush. Stanley gets shoved back a few steps immediately by that power, and now Chubb goes to work with his length. He rolls his shoulders after the punch to transition to a one-arm stab move, which follows the one arm is longer than two principle, and that one arm outreaches Stanley's two arms so that he cannot quickly recover his balance or grab Chubb's own chest in desperation. From there, Chubb can just exploit Stanley's momentum to toss him to the back of the pocket, open up an angle of attack back inside for himself, and then blow up Flacco for the sack. This is a textbook speed to power move that I swear you could find on literally every single game tape of Khalil Mack from the past 3 or 4 years. It's the exact same combo. Force a tackle into a kick set from a wide alignment, fake like you're going to go to the edge, roll the hips inside, bull rush the chest to knock them off balance, throw them to the back of the pocket with a one-arm stab, and then finish inside for the sack. It really does not get prettier than this, and this kid is a freaking rookie. Every coach in America could throw this tape on and use it to teach their guys how to convert speed to power, and this was only his 3rd career game. That is downright scary. And what's even scarier is that he knows how to use that deadly one-arm stab to set up other moves than just that speed to power combo. He can kill you with it in multiple ways. Take this sack against the Cardinals, for example, and I'll use the broadcast replay because it's really the best angle, so don't pay attention to that random telestrator drawing that's not mine. I'm pretty sure that's Troy Aikman's, but instead pay attention to the angle of left tackle DJ Humphries' kick set here. He's trying to keep Chubb from getting that corner by cutting off his angle, and because Chubb is lined up a bit further inside than he was in that last example against the Ravens, Humphries should have an easier time doing that. Again, the wider a pass rusher lines up, the easier it is to get the corner. So Humphries is set up pretty well here to be able to choke off that angle and shut down Chubb because he's not quite as wide as he was before. And to his credit, Humphries does do that and chokes off that angle initially, by the way, which means Chubb would have to run a really long way around that corner just to even get close to Rosen. But because of Chubb's length and power, he's able to turn the tables and outreach Humphries with that stab move. And because Humphries is being outreached by that one arm, he cannot get a grip on Chubb's chest to push him further outside and around the back of the pocket, and as a result he gets pushed further into the pocket than he wants to be. You can see Humphries' feet slow down and simultaneously open up towards Rosen solely because of Chubb collapsing his angle, and again what that does is shorten the corner that Chubb needs to run around to get to where he wants to go. The corner shrinks from being impossibly long and sharp on initial contact to really short and soft by the time Chubb is done with that stab move, and Humphries has no shot to recover or redirect him behind Rosen. The power to change the angle of a corner is really what makes him so dangerous off the edge to me. He does not have elite explosiveness like Khalil Mack, and he does not have elite hip fluidity like Von Miller, but if you can take a long corner and shorten it with technique, length, and power, you don't need elite explosiveness or bend. You can do just fine without it, and clearly Chubb is doing just fine without it. This rookie has created sacks and big plays for this Broncos defense in every way imaginable this season. He's a beast against the run out on the edges, he's winning around the corner with speed, he's winning inside with counter moves, he's winning straight through people with power, he's setting up successful stunts for others and also capitalizing on stunts himself to get pressure, he's got effort sacks from pure motor, he's got sacks where he recognizes lanes of escape and baits quarterbacks into trying to use them, only to then run straight into his arms. And that's a Von Miller special, by the way, and I guarantee you Von has been working with him to perfect that because it's easy money. But overall, my point is that Chubb does everything well, even if he might not do any one thing at an elite level. And because he doesn't really have any actual glaring weaknesses, his entire skill set makes him an elite young talent. He's on pace to potentially break the rookie sack record, and it's because he's a really good young player in his own right that is being made even better by a long line of veteran Broncos passing down their knowledge to him. I know that most football fans outside of Colorado haven't really paid attention to Denver this year, but Chubb is a big reason why this football team is such a pain in the ass to beat, even if their record doesn't reflect it. And believe me, this team should be way better than 4-6, but for one reason or another, well, let's just say that I'll get into my gripes about those two at a later date. I know that there is still a conversation to be had about whether or not the Broncos should have taken a quarterback in the first round over a pass rusher when QB was obviously a major need and still remains a major need to this day. I've made my thoughts on that topic pretty clear in the past, and obviously I still wish that John Elway invested more in the franchise's future under center. But just because I disagree with the philosophy of a pick doesn't mean that I disagree with where a player was drafted. Bradley Chubb is one of the highest graded edge rushers I've scouted in a 5-year span that has been loaded with amazing edge rushing talents, and like I said before, his grade was dead on equivalent to Khalil Mack. He was absolutely worth the top 5 pick that Denver used to get him, and his production so far is exceeding even my lofty expectations for his rookie year. If he turns into a Mac-level sack artist, wins a Defensive Player of the Year trophy sometime down the line, and completely transforms this Broncos pass rush, then I mean, how could you really argue against that selection? An all-pro talent is an all-pro talent after all, and a general manager's job is to collect as many of those kinds of players as he can. If one of the QBs taken after Chubb turns into a franchise quarterback and leads his team to a perennial playoff berth, then yeah, maybe we can revisit this pick again and I can go back to being a pessimistic douche about it. But for now, I'm just gonna shut the hell up and watch this kid play. Bradley Chubb is truly awesome, and as long as he ends up leading the next generation in the Broncos pass rushing family tree, then I'd say that is a first round pick well spent. Thank you so much for watching this week's episode, my first ever episode solely on the Broncos, actually, in the history of this channel. So it's been a very long time coming. Hopefully you guys out in Colorado enjoy the early Christmas present. I apologize for taking this long to give it to you. And shout out to my older brother who also lives in Broncos country. He's down in Colorado Springs as well. And speaking of Christmas presents, by the way, if your idea of a Black Friday deal is getting a big-ass deposit bonus that you can then use to make essentially free bonus bets on NFL games this weekend, then I have a hell of a present for you because our sponsor this week, MyBookie, is giving you just that. If you want to bet on anything in the NFL, whether it's this weekend's lines or Super Bowl odds, or even prop bets like whether or not Cardi B is going to show up in the Super Bowl halftime show, you can bet on basically anything you want to. Just head on over to the link in the description below, enter promo code Brett when you first sign up and deposit, and you can get up to a 50% deposit bonus on any deposit of up to $1,000. Obviously, you don't need to deposit that full $1,000 to get the bonus, but if you're super rich and you have the cash to spare, and you have an insatiable urge to bet on a Maroon 5 concert just to say you did, I certainly won't stop you. So again, hit that link in the description, enter promo code Brett, and go have some fun this weekend. As for me, I'll be back next week with some more picks against the spread and another full film room episode. I'm flirting with a few different options right now for topic, but potentially I'm going to be finally getting around to the Bears. There's like 5 different things I want to talk about with that team. I just haven't found time to do it yet, but we'll see how it goes. Depends on what happens this weekend. But anyway, I hope you guys had a wonderful Thanksgiving. I will see you next week, and until then, later.